This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are covering the many different things that are happening in the world of sports. We are talking about the different options that are happening in free agency in the NFL. Who are some of the names that could be moving? Who are some of the names that could be staying? We give our predictions. We are also going to be talking about the combine happening. We're going to be talking about some of the idea that the mock drafts are going to be happening in the next few weeks. And then we're going to finish up by talking about, well, the changes that are happening both in baseball and in sports in general. Do we agree with these rule changes or don't we? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and we are here at the end of February, which is weird to say. I feel like I just said it was the end of January. It's just weird, Josh. But here we are. March is going to be upon us, which means we have March Madness going to be happening. We have baseball getting more in depth to the point where spring training is going to be over. Then we're going to have opening day. Then we're going to have spring football, which is always weird when I say that, but there's always some type of spring football going on, and everything else in between. But it's going to be a crazy few months ahead of us. But right now it's a little bit of a downtime. So like Josh and I always say, sometimes you have to have episodes where we just cover every weird thing that we can see on the thread, and we decide to talk about it. So before we get into all that, Josh, how are you doing, my man? How's old Ohio treating you?
Oh, Ohio's doing all right here. We've been having some warm weather lately.
Yep.
Today we had some rain mixed in with that, so not the prettiest of days, but yeah, Ohio's been good. Finished that long stretch of work last night that I had working like 14
Yeah.
out of 16 days. Got some nice checks out of the deal. Ben, non-sports related topic, but we were discussing this at work in our break room.
Yeah.
Best cereals. We had
Ooh.
a lot of names thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
We had Cinnamon Toast Crunch get some
Mm-hmm.
mentions. We had some discussion on Fruity Pebbles. Someone brought up Pops, and I was just like, that's the most boring of all time. That's like in the
Mm-hmm.
Rice Krispies, the uh, like Raisin Brands, the
Don't bring up Rice
Kicks.
Krispies because Jared believes Rice Krispies is a dessert. My brother does. That's a whole other debate. That's on another old
By
podcast they used
themselves,
to do.
not like the treats,
Yes.
the
No, no, no.
cereal in a
He
bowl with milk by itself.
Well, he said that anything Rice Krispies is a dessert, and we have an old podcast with me and him, and we had a whole debate on that. But that's besides the point. I would say
Oh,
to answer you, I am a classic. So I used to be just Cheerios, but now I'm a Honey Nut Cheerios guy, mainly because that's one of the only ones like American style brand that I could find here. But Honey Nut Cheerios has always been a go-to for me. Just a little bit of sugar, Honey Nut Cheerios, with some milk. It's phenomenal. Um,
huh.
not much of a Fruit Loops guy. The only other cereal I guess I would that I guess I never again I was more of just a Cheerios guy growing up. That was just kind of the what we had in the house. But I had a lot of friends go to the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That was a lot of my friends went to that. So I don't know if that's more of a popular opinion or not. But I guess
I think it is.
I would say Honey Nut Cheerios. I guess because I think it had the sweetness. It wasn't just plain, but it had a little sweetness to it, and I just really enjoyed it. So that's what I would say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I shouldn't be surprised that you picked like a 65-year-old's answer for this, but I was
I'm
on
basic, man.
I tend to like switch around between like two or three. I'd say right now I think
You're a
Cinnamon
Raisin
Toast
Bran guy,
Crunch.
aren't you?
No. No, the three that I like tend to like rotate around are like Fruity Pebbles, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Lucky Charms, and right now I'd say I'm in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch camp right now
Yeah.
is my favorite. But yeah, there's a lot of them out there, so I was just curious which one you tend to fall into. But Jared Rice Krispies, Ben Honey Nut Cheerios. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird world we live in, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot, and like I would even say too, it's like we also had rain here today. Like I just came from practice, like before we were recording this, and it was so rainy and wet. So we had two Americans that have joined our team, and they said is the worst footing they've ever had in any field from like Pee Wee all the way up to like now pro. Like they've never had a. It was so muddy, like you could just slide across the field. So
Hmm.
that's the way the rain's been here. But anyways, with that, Josh, I know you brought up a lot of topics. We were talking throughout the week, like what were we going to record? Because it's like It's a weird time. There's not really a lot of crazy news stories, but there's a lot of little things that could become big. So, Josh, why don't you kind of hit us with kind of an overall of what the show is going to be, and then we can start with our first topic.
Yeah, we're gonna have some electronic technology that we're gonna be talking about, some changes going on in the NFL, and then some things that baseball's been experimenting with. We got some milestones out in the NHL that I don't know if they'll be able to happen this year, but are getting very, very close. Definitely worth keeping an eye on that chase. And then to kick it off, uh, NFL offseason
Yep.
discussion. We got the NFL Combine happening this weekend, which means that Ben and I will be going over our first mock draft next week. But until that happens, uh, figure we go ahead and go over the NFL free agency stuff. A
Yeah.
lot of big names are going to be potentially jumping ships, switching teams. So we're going to go over maybe some potential destinations, teams
Mhm.
that got maybe the most flexibility in the cap to maybe do something really big and help improve their situation. But yeah, I figured we'd start right there, Ben,
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
some NFL free agency talk. Some of the more notable names. I think the easiest way to maybe do this is maybe go by position and
Yeah.
just discuss like the top
Yeah.
available guys there and
And
where we'd
these are
like
guys that
them to
are
go.
available as of February 27th. So guys that have,
Yeah,
if there's guys that are going to be released, like let's say post June or even like in April, like we won't talk about them because it's not official and we're not going to try to speculate that guys are going to get released
yeah.
because we wouldn't want to be those guys. ESPN.
No, not that's not it. That doesn't sound like us at all. But
No.
hey, uh, we'll start with quarterback since that's always a big discussion.
Yeah.
There are, I think the class you could say is headlined by Sam Darnold right now after the big season he just had with
Yeah.
Minnesota,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
guy that has historically been average to below average, just breaks out, finishes top five in a lot of categories. The other thing that's interesting about this is that Minnesota has J.J. McCarthy still that they drafted 10th in the last draft that missed all of last season with the injury. But now that you got Darnold out here breaking out, you got to wonder if does Minnesota still feel good about J.J. McCarthy? Do they want to keep them
Yeah.
both around? Because we've seen in the past the 49ers kind of whiff on their number three pick with Trey Lance, and then he never really got to see any action. Um, but they also might let Sam Darnold walk. There wasn't much to like in that postseason game, I know, and with it
Yeah.
being one season, how much money do you want to risk on a guy like that? So we can
Yeah.
go ahead and start with Sam Darnold, Ben. What
Yeah.
are some teams you think could be looking for
Yeah.
quarterbacks that might be a fit?
It's an interesting thing with Sam Darnold because I think, if you would be saying this like 2 years ago or even a year ago, I think both of us would be like, why are we talking about Sam Darnold, right?
Yeah.
Um, Look, I think Minnesota was great because it was kind of a place where he really couldn't screw up, right? He had enough talent. They weren't really necessarily projected to be a top tier team. So he could kind of under the radar, right? And I think, look, I would love to say the Browns, right? Guy that's like kind of younger ish than what you like, I guess, veteran wise have. Um, I think the Browns would be a great, and I don't think they're going to pay what he would want, obviously, but a team that I think will be interesting, and Josh might laugh when I say this, a New York reunion, but not with the Jets, with the Giants.
Hmm.
Sam Darnold gets redemption in New York, goes back, goes to the opposite side saying, hey, Jets, you didn't want me. You went out and you wanted to get all these other guys. You end up getting Aaron Rodgers. He flunked out of you. And I think it'd be even such a storybook kind of type of career if he goes and kind of becomes the new Eli Manning for the Giants, and then the Giants kind of become back to what they were. So I kind of really see that kind of as like a possibility. I think Sam maybe wants that redemption. Like he kind of got gypped maybe a little bit in New York. So I think there, obviously the Browns are the possibility, but also maybe the other possibility is, you know, what happens in some of these other places like where they're kind of borderline starter, like San Francisco, like you have Brock Purdy. Do we've seen weirder things happen, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm just
Hmm.
saying like these kind of things. Geno Smith in Seattle, like what's happening with this? What are happening with some of these places that's kind of unknown right now. So, but for me, I think New York Giants makes the most sense in my mind.
I do like the Giants guess right there. I've been hearing buzz that they might try to make a trade for Matt Stafford too, so I guess that'll be dependent on if they can make that happen or not. But yeah, I thought about both New York teams, maybe the Jets bringing him back, the Giants if they can't make Matt Stafford happen. Another team that just had two quarterbacks that are hitting free agency that we'll be talking about next. Pittsburgh is another one that I
Yeah.
had come to mind.
I've been
Someone
interesting
that,
fit. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just looking for that long
Justin
term
Fields deserves that, man.
pick.
He deserves that. He deserves that job,
I
man.
really don't think he does. I don't think that Justin Fields is all that impressive. I think that him and Russell Wilson over there both picked up 5 or 6 wins apiece, and Russell just had like the significantly like higher numbers. But we'll talk about that next. But Pittsburgh's a spot that I could see a spot or see being a spot for Sam Darnold as well. The other one that came to my mind, and this is another situation like in Minnesota where there's not going to be like a whole lot of pressure because of how they finished last year, but also got a lot of talent around to throw to, is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Hmm.
They're going to have a lot of cap space this offseason to afford Sam and potentially one or two other stars. You'd got young tight ends over there with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer over there. You got plenty of guys that you can kind of play around with over there. So that was another one that I thought might not be a bad spot to consider. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Giants could be a fit. Also could see Pittsburgh or maybe Vegas making a splash in this quarterback market too,
Hmm.
which we can transition now to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Uh, both of them finished with winning records, but like I was saying, Justin Fields, like in his 5 or 6 games that he played, he had like just 1,000 yards. And I know people are going to get at me about like, well, what about his rushing stats? Because he had, a decent amount of rushing touchdowns, but he only had about 100 more total rushing yards than what Russell had. And I mean, we know Russell's been a mobile guy most of his career. Russell also finished with about 1,300 more passing yards, had 11 more touchdowns. He took over twice as many sacks, though. Justin got sacked 16 times, and Russ got sacked 33 times in just one extra game of action. But those are two guys that I'm curious to see where they go to. Russ is obviously the older one coming out. He'll turn 37 during this coming season. And then you got Justin Fields, who is a
Still
younger,
young,
more
man.
athletic, will turn 26 before this season starts. Proved that if you put pieces around him, the team will win. Not necessarily because of him, though. So that's a situation where it's just like, okay, if he's going to be like somebody's pick, since he didn't have the numbers to dominate, but at least finally got some wins, I think it's going to be or need to be a team that's maybe more of like in a bridge situation, or maybe they got somebody that they're trying to develop. I don't know. And then with Russ, it's just like, is there any magic left in him? Is anybody going to be like, or is Russ even going to be willing to maybe be like in an Andy Dalton role where he's not the full-time starter like he was in Pittsburgh this year, and maybe be like a mentor style guy to maybe one of these rookie quarterbacks that could get picked this year, or one of the guys that were picked last year? I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think a fit for Russ is just going back to his old coach. I think not Oakland, sorry, Las Vegas makes sense. I just outside of Las Vegas because of that connection with Carroll, and obviously you have Chip Kelly, and maybe that creates some things. I think Justin Fields as well to Las Vegas is not crazy. Again, with Chip Kelly and the craziness of his offense, I think Justin Fields fits that. Um, I honestly, you know what sounds really good, and I know this sounds wild to me as well, is Minnesota for Russ. Imagine
Hmm.
putting him in that situation where, yes, McCarthy, we don't know what he's going to be like. We know this as well. You know this as well as I do. When a quarterback's out for a year, we never know what that quarterback's going to be like the next year. We have no idea. So for me, you put Russ in that situation. You put him with those weapons. And he's playing, I believe, indoors like 50% of the time at least. So for me, I think Russ would make sense to do that. And again, depending on what happens to Geno Smith, maybe does he ride off in the sunset with Seattle? That would also be an interesting place as well. But I'm really liking the Minnesota kind of pick if it's not Las Vegas.
Yeah, with Russ, I was thinking of guys like the Atlanta situation with Michael Penix, or Minnesota's with JJ McCarthy, or even
Yeah.
Chicago's with Caleb Williams. Now, I think most of those teams are hoping that those guys
Yeah.
end up being full-time starters, which is why, like, okay, is Russ willing to be like a mentor backup that might
Or the
have to come in
Giants or
relief?
Jets too, as another spot I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. If he's looking to be like full-time, I think one of those spots. But I kind of like the reunion with Pete Carroll in Vegas too, because they
Yeah.
could still go out and get Shador Sanders or Cam Ward in this draft and let them learn from, one of the better quarterbacks of our time,
Yeah.
and not have to rush in right away. And you probably don't have to spend a whole lot of that money that you got available to you on a quarterback. You can just get Russ on some kind of like a team-friendly deal,
Hmm.
have a young quarterback in the building that can learn from him, and you kind of both get what you want.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, what do you think about Justin?
I mean, like I said, I think Oakland could make sense in the sense that, it's an offense that is kind of, if it's Chip Kelly's offense and the way he wants to run it, I think it helps to have a really good mobile quarterback. And I think, again, weapons aren't as much there. And again, with Justin, I think he needs to have that, those weapons kind of like he did at Ohio State and so on. Another place, to be honest, like I don't see the New York teams. I don't see them gambling on Justin when they've already struggled with finding a quarterback as is. Um, the other place that I thought would be interesting for Justin, to be honest with you, is a situation kind of like, I'd say not say like Taysom Hill, but go to New Orleans, be a guy that you can rely on, because we know this about Justin is like he's a reliable backup at the least, right? But he's also can be a solid starter.
Hmm.
I think Tennessee would be a great spot for him. I think Tennessee Titans, that'd be a really fun spot to see if they would go that route. Then you could get your Travis Hunter or whoever you want to get in the draft. Um, but you bring a guy like him, maybe you still draft a quarterback. If Will Levis is not your guy, um, I really like that kind of fit as well.
I was thinking maybe like Baltimore.
Yeah, that would be interesting to put him in that, because Lamar gets hurt more and more every year. I mean, it would make sense.
Mostly that, like Lamar, if he can't make a full season, is going to miss some games. Justin's at least still a mobile quarterback that you could fit in there, and you got a good defense and a team over there that I think could win in spite of maybe not superstar quarterback play. We've seen Tyler Huntley go over there and do just fine. But we also saw Robert Griffin near the end of his career come over and do like some wildcat kind of stuff, two
Yeah,
quarterback plays with Lamar, and I think Justin could kind of fit that too, a little bit better than maybe what Devin Leary and Josh Johnson on the roster could do right now. So
yeah,
that
agreed.
would be Justin, I guess, kind of accepting that he doesn't have like that NFL starter talent, but still might get to see the field in spot situations, or maybe like the New Orleans situation that you just described. But that's what I was thinking with him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we can stick in Pittsburgh right now for this next one. Go to the running backs and start with Najee Harris. And I'm not sure that Pittsburgh's gonna try to bring him back, considering that they declined his fifth year option. He's been a guy that's gotten 1,000 yards every year he's been in the league, but I think for the most part has been underwhelming. The yards per carry at least haven't been there. And then the other running back that's hitting the market that's probably going to make a little bit of intrigue is Aaron Jones, who just finished out a season in Minnesota. So
And
it's a
possibly
weaker running
Nick
back
Chubb.
class.
And possibly Nick Chubb, depending on what goes on with Cleveland.
Possibly Chubb. Yeah, that's another one. So yeah, this running back class isn't as strong as the free agent one was last year. That was headlined by Saquon and a lot of guys moving around like Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry. But yeah, so Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, potentially Nick Chubb. We can talk some of those guys now.
Look, I personally believe that the Browns will not let go of Nick Chubb. That's just my personal belief. I just, it's hard for me to see Nick Chubb in another uniform. There's other guys on the team. I'm like, it can make sense. So that one's a little hard, and I just I don't believe he is. With Najee, I think it's interesting because, I don't know what the Steelers are thinking half the time. They don't make sense half the time what they do.
Mhm.
But I would say like a good spot. Why not? Why not? If you're going to get a quarterback in Las Vegas, why not get Najee Harris? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know, add that, or actually, you know what? Even a better place than that would be, honestly. You know who needs a running back more than anyone? What's a team in the NFC East that needs a running back more than anyone?
NFC East. Is that the Giants?
Lone Star State.
Oh, Dallas.
I mean, he would fit, right? Like he's a better version of Zeke. Like at least now he is. Like I don't know about overall, but I think there. I mean, the Giants even make sense too. I didn't even think of the Giants. Giants would also make sense as well. So I think either of those kind of spots would make sense in my mind.
Yeah, right now I'm checking Vegas's running back room right now. At least the roster at ESPN has we got Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison and Isaiah Spiller, who I think they took in the draft not too long ago too. So yeah, being able to add a maybe a Najee over there or an Aaron Jones might be interesting. Madison was the leading rusher last year with only 420
Ooh.
yards. Abdullah played in 16 games and got 311. So yeah, not one of the weaker running teams in the NFL. I could definitely see them trying to snag one of these guys. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
the Nick Chubb one, man. I'm hearing Andrew Berry talk a lot about how Myles Garrett isn't going to go anywhere, and that's obviously going to be the priority. But I haven't really heard a whole lot of talk about Nick Chubb or what their plan is for him. I don't know how adamant they are, especially
I mean,
given
he
our
doesn't
cap
look the same though.
situation.
He does
He
not look the
doesn't.
same.
When he came
He
back,
does
he did
not look
not
the
look the
same.
same. You could say it's because like the knee injuries are finally getting to him. You could say it's because the offensive line isn't what it used to be. But whatever reason, I think just given our cap situation, I'm not as optimistic as you. I don't think that he's going to be in the building, unfortunately, when the year starts, and that's going to be sad to see. Um, I guess I'm wondering what the Chargers will do because I think J.K. is going to hit the market as well.
Mhm.
And him and Gus Edwards also didn't play in all their games last year either. So if you're
Yeah.
looking for a guy like I think Aaron Jones might be a guy that can come over here and be like a pass catcher out of the backfield, like what the Chargers have had with Austin Eckler in the past, or what
Mhm.
J.K. Has the ability to do for Justin Herbert as like that safety valve. Uh, Jim Harbaugh also likes having multiple running backs that can do a lot of stuff. So that's a spot that I was thinking too. But yeah, Dallas is another one. Vegas definitely needs to do something at running back this offseason too.
I think that's a great place for maybe Chip Kelly drafts one of his highest state running backs from last year.
Hmm.
Just saying.
Would Jim Harbaugh do that?
No, I'm saying Chip
Oh,
Kelly though at Las
Chip Kelly, my
Vegas.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Chip
mean
Kelly in Vegas. Okay,
that
yeah,
would
yeah,
make
that's
sense,
another
man.
one.
That makes sense.
Yeah, pull up in the second round and grab one of those guys.
That's true.
So now we go to receivers. And over here, this is going to obviously be headlined by T. Higgins. But you also got Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs. Godwin and Diggs, I think, are going to be interesting because they're the ones that are Godwin's, I think, 29. Diggs is going to turn 32, I think, this coming season. So got to wonder how much more they got in the tank or at least the ability to
Yeah.
stay healthy. But then you got T. Higgins, who might be able to be a wide receiver one on most teams. And I think there's a few squads out there that got some young quarterbacks that are in a really good position to go out and make a move on a guy like that. I'm just going to go ahead and say I think that Washington would be an absolute fit because you look at their cap situation, Ben. The Patriots got the most cap space going into this season. The Raiders got the second most, and then Washington's got the third most. And we just saw them make the NFC Championship game, win 12 games with Jaden Daniels, your number two pick on a rookie contract. And I know that they got a handful of guys in the defense that are hitting the market right now, and that's why the 75 million they got in cap is a little high. You hope that you can get some of those guys back, maybe even upgrade at some spots, but I think you got to go out and get another guy that can line up opposite Terry McLaurin, make Jaden Daniels that much more dangerous. And yeah, so I think that Washington should absolutely go out, add one of these guys, and if you're going to add one of them, you might as well make it the best available. Go out and get T. Higgins.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if he stays with the Bengals, which I do think that's a possibility, they franchise tag him or some sort, then obviously like you try to keep him in your camp, obviously. Um, but for me, I don't know why I see this, but maybe it's just because it's guys getting older. But what about the Buccaneers?
So let Godwin walk and then bring in T to line up
Let
Mike
Godwin walk
Evans.
because you think Mike Evans is getting near the end of his career, right? It's slowly going to be dwindling down at some point.
Hmm.
And you imagine Baker Mayfield with those two guys opposite of each other? What are you going to do as a defense?
Yeah, I mean that would be a really solid 1-2 punch. The one thing right now, I mean, I know that we're not like really keeping cap in mind, but they got 2 million in cap going into this year. So I
True.
don't
That
know
is true.
money wise. That would probably be a situation where it's like T. Higgins gets tagged by the Bengals and then they do like some kind of trade and maybe in a
Yeah.
trade Tampa Bay can make it work where they shed enough money that they can afford whatever T would be getting on the franchise tag contract. But that
My other thought too
is an interesting one.
was Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona, they're right behind Washington, fourth with
Yeah.
most cap space, and they
And
also
that
got
would
a
make
lot of needs that
sense.
they need to address.
You put Marvin and you have him opposite of each other. It's kind of the same thing with Mike Evans. Like that's just two deadly dudes and on the outside.
Marvin T for Kyler, yeah. Yeah, that's a spot too. I think Arizona, New England's another team where it's like they just got so many needs. Like they've been slowly like shedding money, accumulating picks, like they to put
Yeah.
themselves in this position to like do like a legit rebuild post Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. And I wonder how many guys they can go out and get to believe in them, honestly. But you do need to get weapons for Drake May, and one of these guys might be it. I don't know. It's tough because it's like I think Diggs is going to want to go to a win now situation, but wore out his welcome in Buffalo, so it was time to make a move over there. Thought the Houston Texans move was absolutely awesome until he got hurt and only played 7 games over there. And I
Yeah.
don't know if the Texans are going to want to hold on to him, given that he also was, I think, having some attitude issues even just in the preseason over there. But yeah, I feel like Diggs is going to want to go to a win now situation. You're going to have to find a team that can tolerate that. Uh, maybe like depending on if the Rams hold on to Matt Stafford. I know they're sending Cooper Kupp away. Maybe he could go over there and line up us
Hmm.
opposite Puka Nakua. Uh, another team, uh, similar situation with a young quarterback. The Broncos could go out and get
Oh
somebody
yeah.
for Bo Nix, but that's probably not as big of a priority as some other areas. I mean, they did pretty well, body of work around Bo, but trying to think of like a spot that Godwin might be able to go to.
Oh,
Hmm.
I was thinking Seattle.
Why Seattle with DK and Lockett out there already?
Oh, I guess
Just
you also
like,
have you have Smith and Jigba. Never mind. I forgot about Smith and Jigba. So that's a three-headed monster. No, I think New England would also be another fit, I think, for Godwin as well. I think New England, I don't want to say the Browns. I just don't want them. Um, I would say New England or
oh, you know another one? This would depend
who?
on who they bring in at quarterback too, but maybe the Giants get another guy to take pressure off Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, that could work too, I think. That could work too, for sure.
Um, let's see. That's a lot of guys on offense. I know there's some offensive linemen hitting the
If
market
we
too.
went
We'll
through all of
find
them,
out.
we'd be here for 20 hours. And no one wants to
We
listen
would,
to us
yeah.
talk about
That's why I'm
guys.
only trying to bring up a couple guys and only like a few key positions. But I think offensive line's worth talking about because you got Trey Smith, who was one of the best interior
He
linemen in the
did just
country
get
last year.
franchise tagged, by the way. Just
He got
found out.
tagged. Okay.
Yeah, he just got franchise tagged. There was news about it. So he just got franchise tagged.
Okay. So we don't have to talk about that as much. So I'll go over to Ronnie Stanley then. One of the tackles over at Baltimore. One of the reasons
Cleveland.
that
Cleveland.
I would love that. One of the reasons that Baltimore's had like the rush offense that they've had for several years and last year with Derrick Henry is the way that Ronnie Stanley's played. Um, I think that Baltimore is going to try to make it a priority. Until you just told me about Trey, I wondered if the Chiefs might try to boost the offensive line since it was clearly an issue in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Get somebody over there that can take one of the tackle spots. Cleveland obviously would be an awesome spot. I think that Cleveland situation though, they might have to go out and get maybe like Tyron Smith,
Hmm.
a tackle who's like been there, done that. isn't what he used to be,
Mm.
but still could play better left tackle than what Jed Wills has for us.
General
But
sucks.
yeah, yeah, I think Stanley. I think Baltimore is going to make him a priority to stay, or I could see Kansas City making a push too.
Hmm. Oh, agreed. I agreed with all that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We'll switch over to the defensive side now. Start with the Super Bowl champs. They're going to have some holes over here in some key spots, and I mean this is what happens when you win. You got good players, and you eventually run out of money to keep them all. But Zach Bond was a guy that nobody expected to break out. I think the most tackles he ever had in a season was 30, and he just goes out and gets 150. So that's a guy that you gotta consider bringing back. Josh Sweat on the edge got 8 sacks last season. Got a handful in the Super Bowl. Definitely did some uh, justice for himself this offseason. And I know we just talked about offensive line, but I'll throw this out there too. Mekhi Becton, a guy that uh, wasn't looking like he was going to live up to the draft hype, but moves inside to guard and ends up being a solid piece to one of the better offensive lines in football too. So Eagles got some guys that they're going to replace. So we can start with maybe if they make Becton a priority, who might need a guard, and then switch over to defense with Sweat and Bond.
Hmm. Oh man, that's hard. I mean, there's a lot of bad offensive lines, but also the Texans have a terrible offensive line right now. At least they played bad.
Yeah,
So I think the Texans makes a lot of sense. Um, or even Dallas with losing their guard as well. So I'd
yeah.
say either of those
Martin just
teams.
retired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my head, I think that T. Higgins is leaving the Bengals, and that means that they're going to have some. Well, they're going to have to spend a lot of money to extend Jamar Chase, to extend Trey Hendrickson. I think Hendrickson's under contract, but he just had an awesome season, and I think is going to want more money.
Yeah.
But with the extra money that Cincinnati does have, I think I mean we talk about it all the time. Like when are they going to finally make the offensive line a priority over here?
Yeah.
Maybe someday they will, but I think a guy like Becton that can play tackle, can play guard, might be a guy worth considering over there. Um, and then switching over to defense, Josh Sweat. Uh, we'll see what where Miles Garrett ends up. If he ends up outside of Cleveland, I think that Detroit and Buffalo could be like potential trade destinations. But if they don't get Garrett, I think a cheaper option for sure is to go out and get a guy like Josh Sweat. Or we were just talking about the Cardinals with all the money that they got. I think their leading sack guy last year got 5 sacks.
I mean, JJ
And
Watt might be coming out of retirement to play, so we never know.
yeah, Cardinals definitely they're one of those teams like we were saying like need a lot of pieces.
Hmm.
So that could be maybe another potential spot right there. Let me go ahead and check the Eagles cap situation at least going into the year. What kind of flexibility they might be able to have. Let's see. Philadelphia Eagles got 18 million in cap going into the offseason.
Not bad.
Yeah, so it's enough to maybe keep a couple of these guys, but not all of them. And Bond is a guy that when you look, it's like okay. I mean, this is like for Sweat too, but with everybody they got on defense, all the superstars over there, the young guys that seem to be panning out, like Mitchell and
Yeah.
DeJean in the backfield, and then Davis and Carter up on the front line. And we've seen linebackers just slowly not be a priority on most teams'
Hmm.
defenses. I wonder if Bond is a guy that they're just like, we could let him walk and maybe spend some money on some other important pieces, or if since this is his has been his one good season,
Hmm.
if they can maybe get him on like a team discount. They just won, maybe winning's a priority to him. I don't know. But
Hmm. Yeah, they got to resign him, Braun or Bond or whatever his name is. Like
Zach Bond, yep.
yeah, they just have to. You can't let him walk. But if he does walk, do what you always do. You find something else. You find someone that can to be half of that, right? Like that old adage.
Hmm.
But I think they're not going to let him walk for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Washington, they got a handful of pieces to replace on defense. Maybe with some of that extra money, they could go out and maybe upgrade at the linebacker spot and get Bond, bring him over
Yeah,
interdivision.
for sure, for sure.
Let's see. So, sticking out in the defensive line, we got Khalil Mack, and he's definitely getting up there. He is 34, I think, currently. Uh, just had a an injury shortened season this past year, and he's
Hmm.
also just slowing down in general. You'd like to think that there's like maybe a little bit of spark there, but nobody's going to be counting on him like a team would Myles Garrett anymore. So I think that he's going to be either at best like a second option and maybe take pressure off your top
Hmm.
pass rusher, or you're maybe more of a depth piece, depending on how much priority winning is for him at this career, because he still doesn't have a
Hmm.
Super Bowl. So is he maybe thinking that he can be a depth piece on a
Hmm.
team like maybe Buffalo, who we mentioned also needs some pass rushers. If they can't make Myles Garrett happen, maybe that's like a discount over there. Maybe Detroit could add some depth to their
Hmm.
defensive line with him. They got 45 million in cap going into this year. Uh, and then who knows? Maybe him and the Chargers will figure it out because they got 63 million in cap as well. Uh, fifth most this offseason. So they got a lot of money to spend. A team that just was in the playoffs last year that can uh, have some flexibility to address some needs too. Maybe Khalil Mack just stays a Charger. We know Jim Harbaugh likes his defensive guys. So
Hmm. Yeah, man. Dude, the defense class is not that strong either, I feel like. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I feel like it's not like a strong class.
there's some decent corners like at the top, but
Yeah.
as far as like those like guys on the defensive line, yeah, I don't think that there's as much in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's tough for me. I don't know. I think it might stay put. I'm not sure. But I think generally, I think this whole list is kind of showing us that it's not just like one location fits for everyone. There's a lot of locations for a lot of guys, I think.
Yeah, it kind of depends on like who does
Yeah.
what teams do in the draft, those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
If one team gets like has a need, like say for wide receiver, like okay, are they going to get Godwin? Are they going to get Diggs? If they don't get them, can they get T? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so secondary, there's a decent amount of options out here. We got DJ Reed, corner from the Jets, one of PFF's top corners last year. We got from Miami, Jevin Holland. Yeah, safety for the Dolphins. And then there was one other one that I thought we could talk about. Let me find him here. Is Ward from the 49ers, Travarius Ward. So another corner option right there. Um, as far as some of these teams and the cap situation go, yeah, I mean, you could say one of the teams at the top, but um, hmm, yeah, corner's like a tough one.
Yeah. We can even skip if we don't think there's any like top guys because
Well, there are top guys. I'm just trying to
yeah.
figure out like maybe some spots because I didn't think about this one a ton. I'll go ahead and read off who was
Yeah.
weak in pass defense last year. Maybe we can just go ahead and start from there. Let's see. Pass defense. So, the worst pass defense in the NFL last year, uh, might be surprised. Well, see, the thing about pass defense too, and looking at that, it's hard because if you're a good team, teams are going to stop running the ball against you and pass a lot. So we got to take some of these with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the five worst pass defenses last year in terms of yards per game, the Jaguars, the Ravens, the Lions, the Buccaneers, and the Vikings. But we do know that Detroit secondary was a weakness, and that was something that
Yeah.
Bryce had brought up to us when we were talking playoffs and who might be able to make the Super Bowl. And we were high on Detroit. We thought the offense was, stellar and the defense was good enough, but he thought that was going to get exposed. And I think maybe, yeah, we'll start right there. I think the Detroit secondary, in addition to getting somebody that can rush the passer opposite Aiden Hutchinson, might need to go out and get one of these guys that can lock it down in the secondary too.
No, I think Lions is a good choice. I'm actually going to go with I to me I think that I could even see the Browns have no money. Never mind, that wouldn't work. I would even say maybe like a Tampa Bay
Yeah, Tampa Bay's
or
in this
yeah,
discussion
like
too.
these kind of teams. So that's why I would say Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like some free agency talk right there. Like I said, we'll see what the combine brings about. I'm sure that sometimes during combine week there's also like a lot of moves that happen too. So maybe we'll get to talk some of those in our mock draft, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, as guys start to move around, that'll affect the way that we make picks too. But um, switching gears and going over to hockey, so that milestone I was mentioning, if you guys are following that at all, Alex Ovechkin just came out with his 30th goal this year, which makes that 19 straight seasons of 30 goal
That is
seasons, which
wild.
last year he set the record with 18 seasons, so he's extending it this year, and he is, I believe, 13 goals as of today away from getting Wayne Gretzky's record.
Which we
Now,
all thought wouldn't be broken.
no, that's the crazy thing is shoot, like it when you looked at it as a kid or like heard some of the most unbreakable stats, and I haven't checked lately like where he's at as far as points go. That might be like way out there that nobody
Hmm.
can go out and get, but yeah, like just watching Ovechkin get like this close, like he's an old dude, man. Like he is. Let me see if I can go ahead and find his age real quick. Uh, he is 39 years old. Plays again next season. He'll be 40, which is crazy. But uh,
Mm.
Washington has one game tonight, and then in March they got 14 games. April they got 9 games. So it's 24 games left if I did the math right in my head right there to get 13 goals. It's achievable this year, but it's going to be tough. But got to
Yeah,
figure if he's still got like just a couple more, he comes back next year, makes it happen. But
yeah,
yeah, thoughts on that milestone. I mean, like you just said, it's one of those records that like for a while we thought would be untouchable.
yeah. I mean, it just shows like longevity and like how he's taking care of his body and on that, or and just imagine if he would have stayed healthy. I think the last few years he's obviously been dinged up. Um, I mean, I just think it's just fun to watch him play, man. It's so fun to watch him play. And again, I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I do enjoy when I see a good player of any sport. And so for me, it's just he is such a how do you describe it, right? Like I feel like yeah. It's just good, I think, for everything around and what are your thoughts on just him as a legend? Do you feel like does this make him the greatest of all time, or do you feel like this makes him at least in the top four, top three?
That's what I was just thinking in my head is like I think like when his career's all said and done, like you got Wayne Gretzky, who they call the Great One up there. You're gonna have Gordie Howe, and like I don't want to be like disrespectful to anybody else I might be forgetting. Jaeger's another guy that I think is up there that people talk about, but I think Alex Ovechkin has to be up there, like in that top
Yeah,
four for sure. Like I don't know what else you can say after setting records like this. And the other thing about this too is that he's done all these goals with the Washington Capitals.
I know.
Been
It's
one
wild.
team. I know like Wayne had a couple other pit stops
I guess
after he
Sidney
was in
Crosby's doing
Edmonton.
that too, I guess.
Sydney's, yeah, he's been in Pittsburgh his whole career.
Yeah.
Uh, one other guy that might be in this discussion when his career's all said and done, we'll have to see, is Connor McDavid.
Yep.
But at least as it stands right now, yeah, I think that like we gotta include Ovechkin in that top four, that Mount Rushmore. I would
Hmm.
I would say. Uh, again, I'm not the biggest hockey guy, so there might be some guys that maybe some fans can tell me are more deserving.
For
But
sure.
if
Down in
you're
the comments, let us know.
Yeah, but if you're finishing as like the highest score of all time, or most goals all time in the NHL, like I don't know why you wouldn't be up there.
Yeah. And you don't cause drama like LeBron James. So we consider you
Yeah,
the GOAT.
very very quiet. Another Ovechkin memory that just came to my mind. You remember the old "This is Sports Center" commercials? He
Hmm.
was in the one that he was in where he's like falls out of the ceiling or he comes out of the ceiling, but they don't see it. He's just like in some kind of like computer room, and they like make a joke about where are you, some Russian spy, and they both laugh. And then the ESPN employee leaves, and then he like pulls his rope up top and is like, that was a close one, and then like gets yanked into the ceiling.
I mean, it's just those. Oh, dude, those ads are phenomenal. But
Yeah,
yeah, the guy's just good. One of the greatest.
yeah. So switching gears now with our last topic is electronic technology coming into sports.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah, yeah.
start with the NFL's first. We just got
This
through
just
some.
dropped. This just dropped like a
Yeah,
day ago when we're recording this.
yeah, yeah. This is new, and it's actually going to be in the games next year. So they're going to try the electronic first down markers, and I guess there's just been enough controversy with the way the chains work, the little bits of human error there, and how the yellow line that appears on your TV doesn't like line up. Or like, are
Or
they matched? And
the chain as a coach right now, like sometimes they don't pull the chain, so it's like ends up being 8 yards instead of 10
they
yards.
don't pull it tight all the way. A
Yeah.
link gets tangled up or knotted or something like that. I don't know, but they're gonna try the electronic one, which will be perfect every time. There will be no more
Oh,
bad
100%.
judgments at
Be like
all with this,
VAR in
I'm
soccer.
sure.
It's gonna be perfect. Everyone's gonna love it.
Then from here we can just complain about spots, bad spots, not
Yep.
bad measurements. But
Before you know it, the robots are gonna be reffing the game. Huh. Shocker. We all said that was gonna happen.
that'll be interesting if a robot ever tries to make a judgment call. But something that's not a judgment call, I think, is if something is 10 yards or not. And you'd think that humans could get that nailed down, but I guess it's a big enough issue at the NFL's like, we're gonna try electronics. So
I hate it, Josh.
what do you
Oh,
hate
I hate
about
it.
it?
I think it just adds a little character. It's add a little showbiz to it, right? Like it just adds a little
Hmm.
showtime, right? But I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't. I can't grasp it. I guess does that make sense? Um, what are you gonna have? Like a guy run on there with a, like, does he have a camera? You bring it up to the ball and like where the yardage marker is. How is that gonna all unfold? And what are you gonna do with the extra, you know, people? Then do they just lose their job? The little holders
The
of the
chain
sticks?
gangs?
Like I don't know. It's just and like so again, I just don't want there to be too much technology where it ruins the sport we love.
Yeah. This is one where it's like, okay, there's not like judgment calls. It's like 10 yards is 10 yards. So if we can get that right every time, then I guess cool. So that's kind of how I see it. But
Yeah.
the technology changes happening in baseball with the ball and the strike reader. Max Scherzer isn't a fan of that one. Has come
No,
out and said that
I hate it.
we're humans, we're humans judging humans. Uh,
It's
a
part of
few
the
balls are
game.
going to get overturned to strikes. A few strikes can get overturned to balls. Like, what are we doing over here? It's just wasting time. And this
Well,
is probably because,
Look at Terry Francona. He's not even using it. He's like, we're not going to use it. It's not in the season, so we're not going to use it.
hmm, yeah, Scherzer's whole, I think that like it's a little motivated because he had a few strikes get overturned to balls already, but still, he's just kind of, I think like the ball and the strike, it adds like kind of like how every ballpark in baseball is different measurement wise. Like you got some short fences here, you got some
Yeah.
altitude changes here. Uh, Having different strike zones also kind of like makes baseball's games unique every night too.
Yeah.
Like everybody, with the exception of like guys like Angel Hernandez, they're just incredibly inconsistent. Like some guys are known for like tighter strike zones or larger strike zones or taller strike zones, wider ones or whatever, and that kind of like adds to the variability of
Hmm.
baseball games. Uh, and I think that I don't know like if you feel the same way, but baseball's umpires are like the best officiating in all professional sports, I think.
Oh, agreed. 100% agreed.
Already. Like they're already like pretty good at their job.
Like they
Um,
go through a training camp, like just to ref a game or to like judge a game. It's wild to me.
yeah. I think they're already pretty good. And I think this is something where it's like we just like I just mentioned it changes like the variability of baseball games can change because of that. But
Yeah.
also think about all the catchers that got jobs because of how good they are at framing pitches that aren't gonna be able to really get away with
Hmm.
that now. So you could
Yep.
just say like, well, if they're framing it, it means that they're turning bad pitches into good pitches, and it's like cheating, or it needs to be cut down because like a lot of guys are getting struck out that for having a good eye, basically. Like Stephen Kwan's somebody that I've heard people talking about that might benefit from like an electronic strike zone if this becomes like a thing that comes to like the 162 game season. Uh, Took a lot of uh, pitches last year that ended up being balls based on the way that the strikes on your TV appears, but were called strikes either because of like that variability or because of framing or whatnot. But
It's
yeah, this
electronic
one,
ball. We all know it. It's like a remote control. That's what it is.
remote control ball, juice ball. Yeah, this one I feel a little bit more differently about than like the NFL stuff. Like the stuff where it's like, yeah, get it right. Like we do review to see if like a bang bang play at first base is right. We want to make sure that we get those calls right. In the NFL, we want to make sure that like a ball did cross a plane on a touchdown or something like that. Those are things that are like the undisputed ones. But the judgment calls, kind of like how like a strike zone is, I'm just kind of like I would rather let that go to the humans and take the maybe the couple bad calls every now and then that come with it. I don't know.
No, I totally agree. I think sometimes in life you just like yeah, I don't know, man. I think change, but also I want to scratch all that. I think change is hard. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Like
an
change is
adjustment. I mean, the
hard.
pitch clock
Yeah.
was an adjustment that some guys just didn't seem to be able to make.
Yeah. So I think this goes back to just like a mentality, like how do you um give them guidance and everything in between. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's just yeah, rule changes I just don't like in like I don't know, consecutive years. I feel like when there's a lot of changes, it gets too much sometimes. At least that's personally my thing. I think you need to find one thing you want to change and do it well, and then the next year you find something else and you do it well. You don't just keep, changing
Yeah.
over every year.
Baseball's been adding like a lot, it seems like new ones every year. And again, this one isn't going to be for the regular season. It's just making its way in spring training. It's been in the minor leagues for a
Yeah.
little bit, but yeah, baseball just seems like be trying to do like a lot of rule changes like almost too soon. And
Yeah.
the other thing that I look at with rule changes, like you mentioned, they're hard, is what's the spirit of them? Like college football had a lot of rule changes to the clock that were going to lead it to running so that TV times could get a lot more ads on, a lot more revenue driven
Hmm.
that way while we watch a lot less football. And I hate that.
Yeah.
I don't like the spirit of that rule change. This
Yeah.
one seems like the spirit is just to get every single ball and strike call right so that like there's no like human error, like getting rid of the human error. But I feel like that, like I said, the human error and variability there is like a part of baseball. So that one I'm not so much a fan of getting rid of that one just
Yeah.
yet.
No, look, I don't, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily, I mean, I do care, sort of. I care. Of course I care, Josh. That's what we're supposed to say as sports podcasters. We care. Care about all the rules.
We care.
Um, but at the end of the day, I can't wrap my head around some of these rules but at the end of the day, whatever helps, then sure. Why not?
Yeah. It'll be interesting, like how much I don't know, like I said, it's just spring training, but if they were to implement this in a full season, how many challenges would you get a game?
Yeah.
And then how much time would that add
You know
to
what I
the
want to
games?
see is if you do a challenge for that in baseball and if you like fail it, I feel like the next pitch or whatever throw needs to be with like a beanbag from cornhole. Like that should be the punishment if you get it
Yeah.
wrong. Just have like a beanbag that you have to throw. That's what it should be.
I think like this is just like me trying to figure it out in my head how it could work. It's not like something where a head coach sees something on the or from the sideline or like gets called down by like their people up in the booth like you should challenge this or something like that. I think that maybe every player could get a challenge since they're like actually in the box and could be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that wasn't a call," and give them like each one and let them keep using it until they fail.
Yeah.
Does that seem like the fairest way?
No, I think so. I think or it's kind of like just do it kind of like what the NFL does, I guess. Dude, I don't know. Just I don't want there to be so many challenges that it's just like I'm watching a bunch of
That's
them.
the thing. That's
Yeah,
the
like I
thing with
just
this one is
ugh,
like if we
just don't want
got like
50
every player
challenges.
one challenge, that means that there's at minimum 18 if they all fail the first try.
Yeah.
But if they keep getting it right, then that leads to more. And how fast can it be? Like, would it be fast enough, like how in tennis, if you challenge, like if a ball bounced on the line, inbounds or out of bounds, and it's like a less than a minute process.
Yeah. I yeah. I think there should be a time limit. I do think there should be a time limit. I think that you just should limit the number somehow, but again, will it be followed? I doubt
Yeah,
it.
I think there'll definitely be a
College.
limit. I just wonder like
Gotta
what
be.
the fairest way would be to do it,
Oh yeah, for
while
sure.
also, like I said, not interrupting the game too much.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, hey, I think that's a
That
show
was a good
for today. What
show.
do you say,
I
sir?
look, I think it was a fun show. Josh, I feel like sometimes you need to have these shows, Josh. We talk about this all the time, right? Sometimes you just need to have these shows. They're more relaxed. It's just kind of off the top of our head. And I will say, obviously, in a couple weeks, we're going to have March Madness. Obviously, we'll have some mock drafts coming up. Like, I think March Madness, that's one of our favorites to do because we always come, I think, every year with a different way to do it. Josh always has his own technique, but I tend to switch mine every year and I fail every year anyway. So, so that'll be coming up. Um, There'll also be obviously more mock drafts then leading up to the draft. Then we'll kind of review the draft. Plus, then you have baseball starting and everything in between. So it's going to be a
Yeah.
busy few weeks for us. So again, let us know in the comments like what are some things you want us to talk about. Do you like our mock draft? Should we have those conversations? We want to hear from you all. Which is fun as well.
Yeah. Did you hear any pushback on any of your top 10 baseball player rankings
No,
from the last
I
show?
did have a buddy that he listened, but he lives here and he didn't respond on the actual post, but he did say that he he is shocked he is shocked that I had a reliever in the top 10. And I said, well, listen, you
It's
know,
Emmanuel Clase.
yeah, like sometimes you just have to, right? So there's that one. What was the other one?
At least on my end in my DMs, someone thought Garrett Crochet should be on.
No,
Uh,
no, no, no.
well, here's the deal with
When you're on the
Crochet.
worst team, you don't deserve to be on. I'm sorry.
Well, he's on the Red Sox now, so it'll be different in 2025.
We'll see.
This is the thing with Crochet is like last year was his first time, I think, as a full-time starter. He's had some uh, health concerns, so I just want to see like some longevity out of him. But like
Yeah,
his when you look at some of his charts or like his uh, X stats, those some of those like red blue charts or whatever, he does
yeah,
pretty good on those. So there's potential in Boston for
yeah.
some of that to actually come out since the White
Oh,
Sox
I
were
had someone
absolutely
say
awful.
I had someone say Jose Altuve and Arenado. I'm like, guys, they're like 37. They're kind of
10 years ago, they were on
yes,
this
I
list.
agree. 10 years ago, same with Paul Goldschmidt, same with a lot of those guys. I agree. But now look, our middle school, high school years was filled with these guys, right? And even early college
Mike Trout.
filled with these guys. Now it's just they're just shells, man. They're shells once they once were.
Yeah. Which you gotta get the hitters posted on Instagram too, by the way. I think we only
No,
got the pictures up right now.
as this is coming out on, I believe it'll be Saturday. They will be posted because I did finish the graphic in time, so it'll be posted before this.
Oh,
So
sweet.
the craziness of me saying this is not crazy. Um,
Yeah.
and then also another thing that we can talk about too, real quick, is that prayers out to the Dolan family. Obviously, the Guardians. I guess he wasn't the running owner. I guess he was obviously it was his money,
Yeah.
but his son obviously was.
He's been in like ownership though.
Yeah. So prayers to that family as well. And again, I do want to say this again. We're not a political show, but we do bring this up when we need to. And hats off to the Trump administration for signing the bill into law, or not bill, sorry, the executive order stating that in all women's sports it should be biological women.
Oh yeah.
I think just hats off. Like, and the people that fight it, I like to just tell people like the people that fight it, that's the problem. It's not, it's not these kids. Obviously, the kids, it's a whole nother
It's
story.
such
But
a weird hill to
yeah,
die on. Like even in
yeah,
like the Democrat Party, I think 70% are against uh
yeah,
boys playing in girls sports. So if
yeah,
you're just over here fighting it, like you're going against like the interest of the people that put you in office, you're going against the interest in like girls. Like if we want to be like, all about feminism stuff, shouldn't we want girls to like
Yeah.
actually have a
That
chance?
that's exactly what
Like
I've always
you're
said.
taking it away.
I've,
Like you're just dying on like this weird hill for like
yeah.
less than like a tenth of a percent of the population or something like that. It's
I
so
think
weird.
David Cohn and some of they were saying like why like I think was it was it Blaine? I think Blaine maybe said like no, it wasn't Blaine. Maybe it was Blaine. I can't remember. One of the Crane brothers said like he might as well just imprison these people. Like I was like, okay, maybe not go that far, but I get what he's saying. Like it's getting to the point now where it's just ridiculous. Like it's just stupid. And but I'm hats off to the Trump administration, and you got this one right. And again, praying that more things come forward for helping sports and helping make it for everyone, but also do it the right way. And the common sense way is kind of what I say as well. So, yeah, it's an awesome time to be a sports fan, and hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you love watching this episode on YouTube, go click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and comment below. What is your favorite cereal? What's your favorite cereal? Comment below. We would love to hear it and to hear how I am plain as all get out because that's what people will say. I guarantee it, Josh. I guarantee it. And then they'll probably say some weird cereal, anyways. But yeah, please do that. And if you've loved listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a nice little rating there and then share it with your friends and family. And yeah, and once again, enjoy this weather. The warm is coming, people. It is coming. I can feel it in my bones. The warm is coming. Hopefully, you guys truly enjoy this weather as it gets nicer. And until next time, we'll see ya.